Thanks for coming to this meeting. As you can see, once you get your sheet there are a couple of options that we're having to work with at this point. I've been talking to Pastor George in Uganda, and he told me that right now the Rwanda border is not, you can't get into Uganda through Rwanda right now, and that is by far the easiest and best option. But he said he's not exactly sure when that's going to open back up, and so we're going to wait as long as we can into the new year to see if they'll lift some of those restrictions. But for now, I've got two options on here for this trip, and you can see the proposed dates there are October 6th through the 17th. It may not actually be quite that long. If we go through Rwanda, it takes some time off of the trip, but if we go through Uganda, it will be that full 11 days because of travel in country mainly. But option number one is we would fly into Entebbe, which is where it's the only international airport in Uganda, and we get in late at night when we fly through Entebbe, and then we drive to Kampala, which is about an hour away, the capital city, and then we get up early the next morning, really early, so you don't get much sleep that first night because we have to hit the road early that next morning, probably about 6 or 6:30, because it is a long, long haul across the country to get to Kisoro. So Kampala is kind of south-central Uganda, and Kisoro is southwest Uganda. So it is about a 10 or 11 hour drive from Kampala, and obviously I prefer not to do that. I've driven that a lot in the past, and driving 10 hours in Uganda is not like driving 10 hours here. It seems like 4 days driving there. It's just so exhausting because you're sharing the road with cows and goats and kids and cars and motorcycles and buggies and it's just everything. It's just it's like Frogger. Remember Frogger? The game Frogger? It's kind of like that. So if we have to do option number one, if they don't open the Rwandan border, then we'll fly through Entebbe. And the estimated cost of this one is a little bit more because of primarily, there's several, I'll just go through these. The flight's a little bit more right now. It's about $1,400. This trip, unfortunately, is a little bit more costly than it would have been last year because airfare is just a little bit up right now. But flights would be about $1,400. Ground transportation is about $200. It's going to be a little bit more than if we flew through Rwanda because of it's just a longer drive. So ground transportation will cost more. Lodging is a little bit more as well because of where we'd have to stay the first and last night. And Kampala is more expensive than if we were staying in Rwanda. Food is about $200 a person. It's really not a whole lot for that whole trip. And then the visa obviously is $50. So total for the Uganda one, are we live streaming right now, by the way? Okay, just making sure. Hello, Hedinger Group, and anyone else watching online. But total for that trip would be $2,200 to $2,300 a person, or $2,200 a person rather, and $300 minus $300 that the church would use to subsidize. So that one would be about $1,900 a person. It's way more than I was hoping, but tickets are just a little bit more right now. Option number two, and we can pray for this option, that the border of Rwanda opens back up to Uganda for a lot of reasons. It's a cheaper trip, and also when we fly into Kigali, Rwanda, it's only about a 3-hour drive to Kisoro as opposed to like 10 or 11 hours if we fly into Uganda. So option number two, fly into Kigali if we can do this. That flight's a little bit cheaper, $1,300. Ground transportation is a little bit cheaper. Lodging is a little bit cheaper. Food and visa is the same. So that would be $2,000 a person was what that would cost, minus $300 from the church. So we're looking at about $1,700 for that trip if we're able to go through Rwanda. What we would be doing right now, and a lot of it depends if this many people go. How many? Let's see. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. You would rock the continent of Africa. They wouldn't know what to do with you, Ken. 18 people. So if we have this many go, then that obviously would change what we would be doing on this trip. Typically what we do is we teach in a Bible school there, and that sounds intimidating because it sounds like, but these are village pastors primarily that have minimal education, and so it's very, very basic stuff that we're teaching. And obviously we'd have team meetings together, and we would have all the curriculum ready, and everyone would know what they're doing for that. And then also, typically what they like us to do is to do a ladies' conference out in the village, out in the country, and so we would have to get some stuff together for that as well. But a lot of what they do there, for the most part, it is an illiterate society. And so they depend a lot on storying, which is where you come up with creative themes for how to tell stories from the Bible that they can memorize and remember. A lot of times they'll even have they'll get up and act it out when you're done. You help them act it out. You help them think through maybe some songs about whatever that Bible story is. And so it's really creative. It's a lot of fun, and it genuinely is very helpful to ladies out in the village, especially those that are not able to read. And so those are the two main things. If we have this many people go, I'll contact George. George is used to having American volunteer teams, so he would be able to. There'd be plenty of other things that we could do there as well. So that's a basic idea of cost and timeline and what we'll be doing. There is possibly an opportunity, if some of us wanted to work in an orphanage there as well. So there are quite a few options for this. Payment plan at the bottom. By January 3rd, if you could turn in $200 a person, that would be very helpful. And then by January 31st, $800 due, so $1,000 due by the end of January. The main reason we're wanting to get that in so quickly is we need to get these tickets ordered, and especially if we have this many people, that's a substantial amount of upfront money the church has to provide for these tickets, so that $1,000 is helpful in offsetting that. February 28th, $500 due, and then 14th of March, the remaining balance, depending on which one of these options we do, and if any costs change or anything like that. So any questions about that? And Luke and Hedinger, if you have any questions, just text me and I'll read them up here as well. So do you guys have any questions? Ashton? April 6th. I may have said October, but it's April. Sorry, I probably did. My brain's a bit shot at this point but April 6th through the 17th. I'm sorry. Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. Yep. So basically what we'd do is, let's say we left on the 6th, it would take us 24 hours to land in Uganda or Rwanda. And really this is what kind of depends on which one we go to for how long the trip's going to be. If we fly into Rwanda, then we'll land. It'll take 24 hours to get there. We'll get up the next morning, drive 4 hours, 4 hours, we're there, and we're ready to stay the night there. And if we go through Uganda, it always seems to add extra time to the trip for various reasons. Just a longer drive there. What was your question again? Days on the ground, yes. So we would have probably, let me just look at the calendar here and I can kind of tell you what we would have at this point. So if we left on the 6th, we're there by the 7th, we're doing ministry on the 8th. So it would be the 8th, the 9th, the 10th would be the 3 days of teaching and conferences. And the 11th would be church, and then there'd probably be a couple of other days at the beginning of that where we would do teaching as well. So it'd be kind of split between Sunday. We'd have a couple days, 2 or 3 days before, then worship together, and they would probably send us to multiple churches to kind of experience everything. And they probably ask several of us to share at the churches there, to share the message, which again, we can all get together and coordinate that, and then have a couple days after. One other option here is we could, and I built this in intentionally, 13th and 14th, if we wanted to, we could add, like on the 14th and 15th, we could drive over and do a game park, which is one of the most coolest things. Have any of you ever been to Africa and done a game park? It's a pretty awesome experience, isn't it? I mean, you're in this pop-up van that's got a pop-up roof on it, and you're looking out, and you might turn the corner, and there might be a pride of lions there, eating an impala or something like that. It's just really neat. It's really neat. So now if we do add that, and this would have to be something we as a team, whoever signs up, we'd have to, it adds a cost to the trip. It adds $300 or $400 to the trip. I'm fine if we don't go, but I've been to game parks a bunch of times. If we're going all the way to Uganda, it's almost worth adding a few $100s to it and going to a game park. There's nothing really like it. It's a unique experience that is kind of once in a lifetime. So, but if some wanted to go but couldn't afford that extra money, then there's other things we can work it out to where we could even send a group over to do the game park, another group stay back. So we'd be on the ground there doing work for about a week. So. All right, the question is safety. Uganda is, if you look on the U.S. Embassy, the warning systems they have, you're always going to find, like, be careful here, be careful there. It's always going to be worst case scenario. But I never once, the 2 years we lived there, I never felt unsafe. I really did. Uganda is a unique little kind of sanctuary in the middle of an area that can be a place of unrest. Uganda is a very, very safe country. That's been our experience. We lived in the capital city, and that was my experience. Especially when you get out in the village, like where we'll be, it's kind of like America here. You get out in the rural areas, and it's typically much, much safer. It's the same way there. Some of the most wonderful, friendly, helpful people you'll ever meet. So, I had a missionary friend of mine that lived he lived in Africa for a lot of years, and then he lived in Memphis, and that question was brought up at an informational meeting years ago, and he said, I'll tell you this, I feel far safer in Kampala, Uganda than I do in Memphis, Tennessee. So, and that's true. It really is, I would say. Any other questions? Nothing? The only shot you have to get that is required is yellow fever. And I don't know, has anyone checked into that as far as cost? I think it's around $100, something like that. So yeah, something like that, about $100, and you can get it here. You can get it. You have to call ahead. You can get it in Rapid sometimes. And I think we had Ashton. Didn't Emily and Carrie go to Gillette to get theirs a couple of years ago? Yeah, but that's something that if we planned a month and ahead, we could call and make sure to have all that set up. You have to get. It's one of those things where it's technically required that you get a yellow fever shot in a little booklet that says that. There have been times I've been there before and they didn't even check that, but sometimes they do. And if you don't have it, they won't let you in the country, or they'll make you get it right there at the airport. Which oh really? It may have changed. There's a travel doc. Yeah, I've heard there's a travel doc. You just got to call ahead of several weeks in advance, I think, to be able to get it. But they have to order it. Yep. Lynn? Oops, sorry. What kind of clothes should you wear? That's a great question. Men, it's a very conservative culture, so men don't need to wear shorts. If we go to the game park, you can wear shorts there. But typically where we're working, I'm going to wear slacks and like a button-up shirt. And for ladies, you need to wear long skirts. Again, game park, you can wear shorts, but when we're doing ministry, certainly you need to wear long skirts. In fact, a lot of times what people do is they'll go to a thrift store or something like that and buy long skirts, or for men, long pants and shirts, and then when we leave, just leave those there. That's a great blessing to them. And dress slacks, yeah. Yep. Yeah, I mean, you could get away with jeans or something there, but they're all dressed the best they can with what they have, and so it's just to honor them. We just kind of try and do the same, so. Yeah, I mean, I don't typically wear a tie there, but they would certainly love it if you showed up in a tie on Sunday morning. I mean, it's just all of them are, like I said, they might be tattered and threadbare type clothes, but they're gonna, even though they're impoverished people, they're gonna have on their suit and tie. They come to church that way. So yeah. How's that? Try it to. Yeah, no, definitely not like that. Definitely. This is being recorded, Ken. You better be careful. Oh, it's okay. Jamie, what were you going to ask? Food? Okay. The staple food there is grasshoppers. You'll eat a lot of, I'm just kidding. Termites. Yeah, no. I really, truly mean this. I'm not just saying this. I enjoy the food in Kisoro very, very much. Their main crop is, they call them Irish potatoes, just white potatoes. And you'll eat a lot of you'll eat a lot of starch. You'll eat potatoes, you'll eat a lot of rice, a lot of beans, a lot of cabbage, a lot of, they call it posho, which is almost like grits that are kind of hardened together. And you'll eat some matoke, which is the green bananas, what we call plantains here, that they steam and they mash, and they're awesome. They're really, really good with the sauce over the top of them. The food there is really, truly, truly good. It is very starchy, and it is very gaseous, so I typically take Beano with me, and I learned that the hard way the first year. It will save you. Take Beano and take it before each meal. It will save you and others. Yep. Nope, no sleeping bag. We stay in a hotel, and you can actually look this up if you'd like to. It's in Kisoro, but it's called Virunga Hotel. It's Virunga. And Virunga is, one thing that's unique about Kisoro is just a small little village town. But it's still a town. I mean, it's got like a couple coffee shops in there. It's got some little restaurants you can eat at that are pretty good. But the Virunga, it's kind of touristy because it's one of the last places in the world where you can see the silverback mountain gorillas. And so a lot like the boy, you are on the edge here. but it's a town because of that. There's a lot of tourists there. So we stay in the Virunga Hotel. It's about $25 a night. I mean, it's not a super nice place, but it's not bad either. I mean, it's got beds. It's got indoor plumbing, and you may or may not have hot water each time we shower. But overall, it's and the people are very friendly. We eat breakfast there every morning. They cook breakfast, and breakfast will typically be like eggs and toast and like a Spanish omelet or something like that, or pancake. They even have pancakes. They have enough tourists there where they do that. So when we're out doing the ministry, it'll be more of the local stuff, which is just fresh vegetables and starches and stuff like that. But the Virunga Hotel is a really nice place, really, really friendly folks. Um, it's more the black mambas that get you there, the snakes. So, no, I'm just kidding. I've never seen any spiders or snakes there, so I think I never have. Truly, I haven't. So, yep. I don't know. I mean, I don't have a clue, to be honest. That's the thing that's up in the air on this. Well, the rumor is they're going to require the vaccine. You have to get a booklet or it's something in your passport to show that you've had it. Um, which, in general, the United States in general is planning. Have anyone read any more about that? Have you read any more about that? It's up in the air. One advantage is this may be early enough in the year to where they're not doing that yet. But I really don't know. Freedom Pass? Yeah, yeah. Well, Uganda would not require that as in terms of like the local level with restaurants and stuff. I can't imagine them doing that. But as far as travel, I don't. That's the question. But again, one advantage to this is if we book our tickets and then that happens and someone wants to opt out, they're still at that point where they're giving money right back, you know, for airline tickets. We do have insurance. We'll have insurance through Gallagher Charitable and for airline tickets. I don't know. I'll work with the travel agency and get their opinion on what we should do. Yeah, cancel it or whatever. Yeah, yeah, that's true. That is true. But we will have travel. I'm glad you said insurance, though. We will have travel insurance that is really good. If there's any medical emergency, it'll evacuate you out of the country and get you somewhere safe. If there's a coup in the country, which I can't imagine there won't be, but um, if you have something stolen, they'll pay that. We've learned that because we had stuff stolen when we lived there, and they covered everything covered everything without really any questions asked. So we'll have good insurance for that. So, any other questions? It is. So we would fly from, I mean, some domestic flight, hour, 2 hours, whatever. Fly to Rapid, yep. We'll fly to Rapid. I've thought about flying out of Denver, but the trip is just so long. It adds another 6 hours. It's already a brutally long trip as it is. Fly to Rapid, somewhere domestic, 1 or 2 hours, and then typically you'll fly to somewhere in Europe, whether it be, depending on the airline, to Brussels or to Amsterdam or sometimes to London if you fly British Airways, and then from there down to Uganda. So that flight to Europe is about 7 hours, and then from Europe down to Uganda is about 7.5, 8 hours. So you're looking at like 16, 17 hours in the air plus layovers. That's why it's about 24 hours total. So in April it will be, well, it's spring, but in Kisoro it's a little bit different. Kisoro is, the soil there is volcanic. It's beautiful. It's mountainous where we're going to go. It's a really, really pretty place, and I think almost year round there. They have a way longer growing. I mean, they can grow stuff year round there. I mean, it's just, and so I'll tell it to you this way: the weather when we're there will be, it'll get a little bit chilly at times. It'll rain most every day just for a little bit here and there. It's almost like a greenhouse, just a perfect climate to grow stuff. So. which I very much prefer because where we lived in Kampala, it was hot. I mean, it would get really, really hot there, and you typically don't have air conditioning. So Kisoro to me is about the perfect climate there is. Just bring a little light jacket with you for when it does get a little bit cold, and otherwise the weather's almost perfect typically. So now to the Ugandans, it's one of the coldest places on earth. Literally, you'll see them wearing like jackets we'd wear here, coats we'd wear here. And I'm like, it's not that cold, but to them it is. That's just because they're not used to anything other than that. So food, stocks, STOCKS. Okay. And when we get the team solidified, we'll do some cultural training as well, because there are some things that you do and don't do there just culturally, but it's nothing major. But we'll do that. We'll do team meetings and make sure that we're all on the same page and know what our roles are on the trip and so forth. So we'll have to figure out something for the kids that go. I think that'd be awesome. They'd love it. You guys would be like the circus in town. All those other kids would love you, boys and girls. But any other questions? Kay, is there anything I'm forgetting to cover? Food? Typically we bring, I would encourage everyone just to bring a couple $100 cash with you for yourself while you're there, just for souvenirs and stuff, because there are a lot of neat little things you can buy there, a lot of uniquely African, Ugandan things that you can buy there as well. So, one advantage, I will say this, and I know it's lunchtime and everyone's probably like, please quit talking, but one advantage to flying into Uganda, if we have to do that, is when we drive cross country, we drive across the equator. And that is kind of neat to go across the equator. There's a little thing a little restaurant there you can stop and eat. They've got like guacamole dip, and you eat those matoke chips with them. They're really, really good. But the equator is really neat because you get a picture right there on the equator, and they also have a little thing you can put a water drain down on one side of the equator, and it'll run down this way. Move it over 3 feet, and it runs down this way. Yeah, it really put it right in the middle of the equator, and it kind of just bloop, 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 straight down. It's really unique. It's something to see. I mean, it's kind of. You ever been to the equator, Travis? In Ecuador or what? In Kenya. Okay, so it's pretty neat. There are some advantages if we do have to fly into Uganda, but there are certainly I think the disadvantage. I'd rather fly into Rwanda for sure. So, any other questions? If you have any throughout the week or anything, let me know, and over the next week or so, and. Otherwise, that's kind of the payment plan there, and love to have a big team go. Be great.